All right, we are back with our next candidate here. And who is with us now? Introduce yourself to the good folks.
Lilliana Young, and I'm running for the Indiana House of Representatives in District 61, right out of Bloomington.
All right, fantastic. So, what was your inspiration for running for office, and in particular for the state house?
I am exhausted with the status quo. I think that our state is broken fundamentally. And my belief is the solution is not just voting out Republicans, but we also need to put more what we would call everyman type of people into the legislature. I am a lifelong service worker. Most of our legislators are like business owners or lawyers, people with a lot of money to fall back on. They're never really going to be that affected by the things going on in the state. I'm affected by everything that happens in the state. And, you know, I do genuinely believe that I know better than anybody in that state house how to approach the problems that are affecting the majority of Hoosiers.
Well, and that sort of leads me right where I wanted to go next. And you spoke to the fact that most of our legislators are attorneys or business owners or high dollar positions, where they are sort of somewhat shielded from that struggle that the rest of us have to go through. I was in the service industry myself for about 15 years, so I know that life, and it can be difficult. So I was going to ask you, what has something that has been a struggle in your life, and how do you take that to the state house, and maybe craft legislation that will make other people, that will lift other people who are facing similar struggles.
The biggest and most fundamental problem is it doesn't really seem to matter what I or my wife do, how many raises we might get, how many extra shifts we pick up. There's just not enough money. Wages are fundamentally too low. And, so my very first legislative priority is to try and push for a $20 an hour minimum wage in the state. And even that, I don't know necessarily might be sufficient. The last time I had read research on this was that a single person working 40 hours a week needs to make over 22 an hour to pay for an apartment, not even a house.
Yeah.
So at that point, $20 an hour becomes the compromise point. But it's still drastically better than the $7.25 that we have right now.
The $7.25 is criminal, and if you look at where the minimum wage was in the 1950s, the 1960s, and adjust it for inflation, it would be over that 22 or 25. I think it's going to be closer to 30 at that point. And yeah, it has just fallen so far behind. We haven't had a raise, the working class, since 2009, I believe it's been.
Right. And the big problem with that low of a state minimum wage is I hear the argument from people that, well, nobody actually pays just $7 an hour. Okay, sure. But because the floor is so low, a business can get away with paying 10 or 11 or 12 an hour, and they can call it competitive or, something along. And they get away with that because it's above the state minimum wage. But anybody living in this state who works for a living knows if you're not making bare minimum 18 an hour at your work, you're not paying your bills, period.
And well, I guess now, how do you, our legislature is a part-time legislature, right? And one of the things that does, I think, in a way, is it weeds out working class folks, because you have to be able to take that time away from your job to go to Indianapolis for a couple months, essentially, where they are paid a salary and a per diem, but it's not a full-time job. How do you see that working for you?
Well, in my particular context, the state representative position actually pays more than anything I've made since I've lived in Indiana over these last 10 years. I've learned how to get by on $17,000 a year. Uh, what was it, like 30,000 or something? I don't know. For me, I'm going to feel rich. I'm going to feel absolutely rich with that kind of money. So for me, it's fine. But if I had the time, I'd love to go back to my roots are in like writing and music production and
Yeah.
things like that. So I'd like to go back on my off months. Maybe I can make a little money making some music for somebody.
Yeah, just putting that art out in the world. So let me ask about art, literature rather. If you were a fiction character, what fictional character would you be? Or if maybe not that, which fictional character would you like to be? Or both?
I feel like I see a lot of myself in the character Kira from Star Trek, Deep Space Nine.
Okay.
She's a woman in a world surrounded by people who want to impose a lot of crap onto her that she is very over with before it even starts. And I relate to that more strongly than I can put into words. I'm really done putting up with a lot of the BS that people want to put on. And it could be anything from nonsense at my day job to online transphobia, whatever. It's any number of things. I'm kind of over all of it.
Sounds like, yeah, you're sick of people's bull, and I think a lot of us are. Now, one place that you will find a lot of bull is in the State House, and to that effect, you'd have a lot of different colleagues to navigate, both Democrats and Republicans. What do you see as the role of interpersonal relationships with your colleagues? How do you see building those relationships with other lawmakers?
I don't believe that Republicans would be my colleagues. That's one of the big things that I put forward in my campaign rhetoric. I don't really believe that we are in a place anymore where we can actually work with Republicans in any reasonable way to get the things that we have to get done to benefit the state. I have watched for 30 years, whether it was Texas, where I was originally from, where it's here in Indiana, now where I've lived for a decade, national level, whatever, Republicans have become increasingly disinterested in genuine compromise. And my perspective on that is don't treat them like colleagues, treat them like the enemies that they have become. Partially because they're not really used to that.
Yeah.
I think Republicans have become conditioned to expecting attempts at compromise and people trying to appeal to their better natures. They don't actually expect to be treated like they are the enemies of progress and good things that they have become.
Yeah, like they keep on stepping to the right, and expecting you to meet them halfway.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. The further that they have drifted off in that direction, the worse the compromise position has become on anything, on any issue. So the approach, I believe, needs to now be, instead of chasing that never-ending, drifting compromise that gets worse every year. Instead, draw your line, stand on that line, and call them out to their faces. Call them out in the legislative chamber, call them out face-to-face behind the scenes. Treat them like they need to now be treated. They don't expect that. I've been in legislative hearings as just a person, and I have quite literally chewed out state senators. And I've seen the looks on their faces. It rattles them.
Yeah.
They're not expecting it. They're there expecting people to try to appeal to their empathy. And that hasn't worked for 20 years.
Yes. Well, and yeah, very, very much the Republican position on a host of issues is just to be a bully.
Right.
And, you know, look, we're Hoosiers here. We watched A Christmas Story, Gene Shepherd, Hoosier. We know that the way you deal with a bully is you punch the bully back. You don't compromise with them.
Right. I'm not going to actually try and punch anybody.
Metaphorically
but,
speaking,
you know,
of course.
I mean, look, if I really wanted to, I would win the fight.
Look
But
so Jim Lucas isn't the only one bringing guns to the state house. Look at this. So check it out. Lilliana, what, be it in the state house, be it in life in general, what is the legacy you want to leave when you are old and gray and, you know, your time has come and you're gathered with your loved ones looking back on your life? What legacy do you want folks to remember?
that I never let anything or anyone stop me from doing the right thing. And the right thing isn't always going to be popular. There's a lot of points in our history as a state, as a nation, where the right thing was unpopular for a long time.
Yeah.
But there were people even in those eras who recognized this is the right thing. It's not popular yet, but I'm going to fight for it anyway. And I want to be that person.
Well, Lilliana, if folks want to help you be that person in the Statehouse, where can they learn more about your campaign, perhaps volunteer, donate time, talent, and treasure to the cause?
My campaign website is youngfor61.com. Got info about, little quick bio on me, my work in Bloomington as a commissioner and activist. If you want to shoot me an email through the email form, I'm checking that email 10 times a day. So I'll get back to you pretty quickly. Could use a volunteer or two. If you got 5, 10, go crazy, $15 to throw at me. I've actually learned how to squeeze a lot of mileage out of just a handful of dollars for my campaign. I'd really appreciate it.
Well, very good. Lilliana Young, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you so much. Great to be back with you.
Absolutely.